into a community just for that community to be the reason that you lose your life.
What's up, everybody? And today we're going to be getting into the two most tragic examples on why you should honestly really be careful on how much you share with the internet, but at the same time, you should honestly be careful on what you share with the internet. Valeria Marquez. Now, I know you guys probably haven't heard too much about this individual, but she is actually an Instagram and TikTok model, but at the same time, she owns a business down in Jalisco, Mexico. More specifically, a beauty store that goes by Blossom, the Beauty Lounge. Now, back on May 13th, there was actually an individual that tried to meet up with Valeria early in the morning because he had to deliver some type of special gift. But fortunately enough for her, she wasn't there, and he met up with some type of coworker or a friend, and he was probably told that she inevitably would be back later. And when she was inevitably back later to do some type of TikTok with the individual there, or she was participating in her TikTok live that she was actively doing while this individual ended up coming back to the store, and we don't really understand if he was let into the store or he pushed his way into the store. But while Valeria was actually on her TikTok live, the individual that wanted to deliver a special gift ended up pulling out a weapon and shooting Valeria a couple of times. We don't really know how many times she was shot, but she was shot inevitably in the chest and in the head, that unfortunately enough, she passed away right there. Now, I think we can all come to the understanding that this was a horrible, terrible loss of life, but one of the things that a lot of the articles on the internet that explaining the situation aren't telling everybody is that there are rumors and there's a little bit of understanding on who actually might be behind this whole scenario, on why it actually might, instead of just being a random act of violence, this might actually be a purposeful hit. One of the most obvious pieces of evidence that this could probably be a setup is the way that the actual friend that was actually in the room when Valeria ended up getting shot and killed acted after she was actually shot. Now, we don't actually know if the gunner that was shooting Valeria ended up threatening the friend, but we can obviously see at the end of the video, the friend ended up grabbing the phone that Valeria was using. We don't even know her phone or somebody else's phone, but she grabbed the phone and ended the live stream. And there was a rumor around the internet that she actually ended up deleting Valeria's TikTok account after the fact of the whole scenario. But if you actually go on TikTok, her TikTok account's still there, so that's still a little bit up in the air. Now, I'm not about to judge anybody for their reactions when they're going through some type of terrible, horrible, shocking situation, because everybody has a different reaction when it comes to that type of thing. But at the same time, we can obviously look from the video that is very odd that we can see her face, and there was honestly no reaction. There was no shock, there was no yelling, there was no screaming, her mouth wasn't even open, her eyes didn't even look open. She looked very dead-faced. And I don't even want to say that she was contempt, but she wasn't as alert that everybody else would actually be in a scenario like that. The second and most important piece of evidence that really suggests that this whole thing could probably be the setup is that there was a period and point in time where Valeria actually ended up dating some type of Mexican cartel member. Now, obviously, we don't know if the actual individual that ended up doing the actual shooting was the individual, the Mexican cartel member that she was dating in some type of previous time. But one of the reasons that it's suspected that this whole scenario is even happening in the first place is that that Mexican cartel member was even jealous that Valeria was getting so popular and getting all this attention and all these gifts from her fans in the first place. While it's honestly really sad to say that one of the assumptions that I could probably come up with was there was a period point of time where she was really lovely, romantically involved with some type of Mexican cartel member, and she ended up understanding that this was probably a really dangerous life that she really didn't want to get involved in, and getting away from him at some point. But at the same time, you really got to understand that once you're kind of involved with those certain type of people, it's really hard to separate yourself, because they really don't listen to anybody but themselves. Because at the same time, they're really dangerous. I mean, we can obviously tell here because we don't really understand what they're going to do, how they're going to feel. And at the same time, they can easily send people to just do certain things just exactly like this. Now, fortunate enough, we don't really understand if the individual that was there, maybe there was a coworker, a friend, or maybe even the person that set up the whole thing in general. We don't really know if they were hurt or threatened in any way. But when the individual that actually shot Valeria left the store, they actually ended up hopping on a motorcycle that was already occupied by somebody, maybe their partner. But when they left the actual beauty store, they ended up never getting caught. But the police actually ended up linking these two people that left on a motorcycle to another murder previously a couple days ago that was linked to a former congressman. Yes, of course, I have an understanding that none of this, not even remotely close, was any of her fault, because she was just living her life, being romantically involved with certain people, the wrong people obviously, but just living her life. We can obviously understand that. But with the rise of femicides, female influencer homicides, you really have to get the understanding that there's a trend of people attacking influencers, especially females, that they really admire or they really like. So if you want to be an influencer, especially a female influencer, you really have to protect yourself even more against these type of people, because you can obviously see that it's not stopping or it's not slowing down, and it's not going to go away anytime soon. While we can have an understanding that Valeria's death is a horrible loss of life, this type of terrible situation is becoming a little more common than a lot of people would actually like to think, with a previous death of another social media influencer being on May 15th, Maria Jose Estupan. Maria was actually a 22-year-old Instagram and TikTok model, but unfortunately on the morning of May 15th, at her home in Cutico, Colombia, she was actually gunned down in the face and in the chest at point-blank range. Now, of course, we don't really know the concrete reason on why this individual actually ended up going to her house and gunned her down at point blank range, but there is a theory going around the internet on that her ex-husband that has been involved in a domestic violence case since 2018 with her, it was ordered for him to pay a total of 30 million Colombian pesos, around $7,120, to her a day prior this whole incident happened. But it's actually theorized that he actually hired this hitman to come to her beauty salon in that morning and take her out. Also, he doesn't have to pay that measly $7,000. While Maria's situation was a little more easily understandable in the way that we understand who might have done it, why he probably have done it, it still doesn't take away the understanding from both situations, and that if you're going to put yourself in this grandiose situation, if you're going to try to be an influencer and put your business out there and really be connected to the community, you can't give people information, and you can't allow yourself to be basically doxxed and put your information out there that people can end up tracking you or follow you or put yourself in some type of dangerous situation. While Valeria did use social media as a way to really grow her business, it was honestly a way for people to end up coming to her life and put her into whatever situations that anybody actually wanted to. Absolutely not saying that any of the situation was her fault, but she invited anybody that actually wanted to come to the salon and get their hair done or get into some type of situation with her. She invited that by allowing people to know where this actual beauty studio was. While social media was a great and prosperous avenue and thing for her during her life, it was only through social media that this type of situation, this type of person, was invited into her life. And if she never actually started with this whole social media avenue, if she just got a normal job and just decided to be part of society in the normal way that everybody actually thinks he should be, then this type of situation would have never happened. But of course, as always, I hope you guys enjoyed everything. I hope you guys enjoyed the content. I appreciate all the love and support you guys are actually showing on my videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one. See you later.